I'm going to do this short video on supplementing the cooking implements in your van. You may or may not have a couple of rings, cooking rings, be they gas or electric, and you can cook obviously a wide range of meals using 2 pans or even 1 pan. As I mentioned later in this video, all the years that I've been caravanning, camping, etc., I've always aspired to, be able to cook pretty much anything I want like I would at home. I've done Sunday meals in caravans, Sunday dinners, roast dinners, all sorts. My usual food that I cook. So here's the first option, and this is the Cadac Safari Chef, and just show you some of the options that I've got with mine. First of all, I can run mine directly from my van. So this is a bullfinch connector. So literally plug that into the side of the van, and then that is a hand connector to twist on the bottom of the Cadac. Or you can get the adapter, which is like this, to screw onto these canisters. If you're going to run it from canisters, make sure you get butane and propane mix, because one of the issues with butane is it does stop gassing off when the temperature of the canister drops, and your flame will get lower and lower and lower. So always try and get a butane propane mix. So that screws onto there, and then that screws under my Cadac, and that's a way of supplying your gas barbecue a couple of different ways. The Cadac comes in its own bag. You've got a pouch on the side that is actually built to carry the canister. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I tend to shove that in there. So in the lid there is space for 2 cooking surfaces. So this is a non-stick plain surface, so you could do your whole breakfast on there, you could do bacon, eggs, etc. on there, mushrooms, whatever. The next one in there, that's the barbecue grill, so you could pretty much cook everything else you would cook on a barbecue on there. One thing to note is that these are organic ceramic coatings on all the Cadac surfaces now, and if you want to get the most amount of life out of these, one secret to using this barbecue is to not be using it for too long on high. You will burn the surface. So I'll just get it out. So the feet fold up underneath, and these are numbered 1, 2, 3 on the base there, which not a lot of people might realise. And it basically, when they fold up like that, 1, 2, 3, the legs are actually shaped to take up the least amount of space. Okay, so we would have attached our gas. What you also get with this is this pan with a pot stand. So you can use it like that, literally as a burner for a big pan. So you can just use it outside for a big pot of pasta or a big frying pan or whatever. So you can just use it like that as a single burner. Take that away. I've shown you the 2 cooking surfaces I've got there. The third one I've got here is called a plancha grill, and that is a combination of non-stick flat surface and a barbecue grill. And basically what you would do, you just stick that on there, and that's your barbecue ready. Okay, and what you would do is you stick this on high for maximum of 5 minutes to get it hot, and then turn it down to minimum. And nearly always I cook with the lid on. So the lid goes on there. It just helps to keep the heat in. It helps to cook your food through more thoroughly, such as chops, sausages, stuff like that. I think barbecuing with a lid on is just a whole better way to cook anyway. This is quite exposed. Gas barbecues don't like wind. If it's a bit windy and you've got food on here, such as sausages, they need to try and keep the heat over them. And so cooking with the lid on, for me, is a must. The other thing with this lid, this is enamelled. So if we've got the pot stand in, you can cook with, that sits in there actually. It fits in there. There we go. And so this is enamelled. It's kind of non-stick. So you could use that as a huge wok, or you can cook anything in there. It's a huge pan as well as being the lid. You also, if you do cook with that, you get the lid with it. So you've got a huge pan with a huge lid. I have also got the paella pan. Just because it's called a paella pan, don't mean to say you have to cook only paella in it, but it's really nice quality, this Cadac stuff. So again, this is organic ceramic non-stick surface. This pan is really high quality, and you would use that on the pot stand like that. It comes with its own lid. You can cook anything you like in there. I've had Cadacs for years and years and years. I used to have the big Carry Chef. After using various barbecues, I've found that the Cadac is probably the cleanest to use and the easiest to clean up when you've finished. The other thing I've tried, these are Teflon non-stick liners, barbecue surfaces that I've shown you. You could put one of those on top of it and you could cook your food on there, and it basically just makes it a little bit easier clean up. The other thing that I've got for this is the pizza stone, and I've used this with a lot of success. So if you get pita breads, you can make little pizzas. So obviously you would put that on top of the barbecue grill with the lid on, and then use that like you would any pizza stone. Finally, for cleanup, I bought this actually from a recent show, something I should have bought years ago. It doesn't fold flat, but it'll squash flat if you packed it in a cupboard or in the garage of the van. But basically it's made to fit the barbecue grills. So you fill it with hot soapy water, stick your barbecue grill in, and just leave it overnight for a couple of hours. So much easier to clean. All these surfaces are organic ceramic. This is the Cadac brush, and it's basically, I think it's like coconut fibres, something like that. This is the best thing to use to clean the Cadac barbecues. So that's pretty much it really. Very versatile. There's loads of different cooking surfaces there, loads of different options. I'm going to show you a couple of options now with electric cooking devices. And I guess the one thing to consider with those is it's essentially free. Using the electric pot in the van is essentially free energy, because you're going to be recharging your battery with your solar power. Whether you use the canisters with that or plugging into my van using my gas flow system, obviously I'm paying for that energy, although it uses very little gas anyway. And if the weather's bad, you don't want to be outside using your barbecue. So let's have a look at the two electric options. So I've got two burners in my camper van, slightly larger one there, small one there. You can do a lot of meals with two pans. So this is the Russell Hobbs Good to Go cooker. That's the connection unit. Okay, and if you take that off, that whole thing can go in a dishwasher, which is quite handy, because this is quite handy to use at home as well. So you get instruction book with it, with all the different cooking modes in there. So you've got steam, rice, boil, slow cooking, sear, roast and sous vide. So inside you get this rack. That is for putting veg on or whatever really. You can steam stuff on that. And then also you get this rack that goes in the bottom. The whole thing is non-stick, really good non-stick. So on there you could put a piece of meat, you can put potatoes, you could put a pasty, etc. Stick that in there and heat it up with one of the various modes. This is 750 watt. Okay, so if we put it onto, I think that's sear. Okay, and then we'll connect to my battery. So I've got 4 amps of solar at the minute coming in there. So if we go back to the battery, if you can see that, so that's 55 amps. That's on sear. So the thing is just acting like a hob. So that's not too bad. Most of the recipes in here, you're only probably going to be using it for a short time when it's on full power. I have used this when I've been away in the van. I've done a beef casserole in it. It was on for about 4 hours. But the thing to note about that is it's not going to be on at 55 amps for 4 hours. When it's on slow cook, it's only going to be keeping, you know, the pot at 60-70 degrees. So with a 750 watt element is not going to be on the whole time. So I think the beauty with this pot is once you've got it up to temperature, if you then set it to, you know, the various modes that's in here, certainly sous vide, that is only going to take a small amount of power because there's going to be an amount of water in there. You've initially got to heat that water up. Obviously slow cooking, not going to use a lot of power at all. Rice, I've done rice in this as well, and it's really good at cooking rice. The one disadvantage with this for me is that it is quite big. I think it's around 6 or 7 litres, so you can do quite a reasonable amount of food in there. And I guess if you were cooking like a curry or a chili or something like that, there's plenty of scope for putting it away. But it's a good bit of kit to supplement what you've got in your van. So another bit of kit, which I already had in my cupboard actually, and I sort of thought, I remembered about it and thought, oh wow, I can use that. So this is called Remoska. It was invented in the Czech Republic in the 50s, and the main reason for that is because their infrastructure after the war and during the Cold War, etc., was pretty poor, and most houses, whilst they might have had an electricity supply, it was very, very limited. And so they needed methods of cooking. And whilst if you lived in the country, you could cook on an open fire, if you live in a flat in a town, that's not really an option. So this pan was invented in the Czech Republic, a pan, and originally it was a stainless steel pan. This is like a modern version, if you like, of a Remoska, but it's still made by Remoska. So it's a non-stick pan. You've got a heat-proof trivet which it sits on, and you can pretty much sit that anywhere. So the lid has got the element in, and this one's got a 400 watt element in the lid. It's also got a window in it, and it's got this handle here, so that when it's on and it's hot and you need to take the handle off, you turn it upside down and it sits on the worktop like that, and it's not going to damage anything with the heat of the element in here. And so then the lid fits on there and you do your cooking inside. You can also get this trivet which is reversible, so you can put that in there, and again you could heat pasties up on there, potatoes, you can put it the other way up, you can do toasted sandwiches, pretty much endless what you can do. So there's no controls on this other than on or off. So I'll turn this on and then we'll have a look on the battery, and this is taking 32 amps. What we're getting with solar, we're not getting a lot at the minute because it's quite dull. We're only getting half an amp of solar. So if I turn it on, it's 32 amps. That's not too bad. For my battery will run that all day. The difference with this pot is that it's not a slow cooker. You think of this as a mini oven, and I think that is it's going to be its beauty. I'm going to take this to France with me, and I'm going to use it to supplement what I've got, as well as having the Cadac. But there may be times when you can't use the Cadac. And the other option I've got for both this cooker and the Russell Hobbs is that I would put it down there in the middle of the van, and I'd be quite happy to run this while I was driving. This has got non-stick feet on it. I'd be quite happy to sit that on that carpet with something in it while I'm going. And I know that my alternator will stick over 40 amps in, so that means that it'll run this and charge the battery at about 10 amps while I'm driving if it needs it. It's not a slow cooker, and so for the majority of recipes which are in this book, it's never going to be on for more than an hour. All right, so that's basically going to take essentially 30 amp hours out of your battery, because it's 400 watts and it's on all the time. So you can roast chicken in there. You can like get some veg, little bit of stock, some chicken or some lamb or some beef, whatever, bacon. Stick it all in there, mix it up, and just stick it on, and that will create a really good meal. Really good meal, very tasty. So where do you get them from? These are actually sold in this country by Lakeland. They're pretty much the only place you can get them from. They do a bigger version of this. It's called the Grand Remoska. That is a big pan. That is enough for 4 to 6 people. This, I would say, is enough for, you could feed 4 people, but this is ideal for sort of 1, 2, 3 people. You can find it on Amazon, and there may be other online places that you can find it, but pretty much all of them will be sourcing it from Lakeland. I also got this book. This is the official book for the Remoska. It's spiral bound, and it's divided up into like vegetables, meat, potato, sweets, etc. There is an amazing amount of recipes in here, 3 or 4 on a page sometimes, pasta and rice, but loads and loads of recipes. And apart from sometimes sauteing some onions or garlic or whatever, or bacon in a pan, it's pretty much all done in this pan. So I'm looking forward to trying that, and I think that is going to be quite successful indoor cooking device, as in a small oven, because the whole idea of this video, if you like, is to show you other options of cooking in your van apart from your 2 hobs, be they electric or gas. Because having been caravanning for years, one of the things that I've always aspired to is, just because I'm away in a camping scenario doesn't mean that I have to eat any less quality than I do when I'm at home. And so given my 2 hobs now, and this and the Cadac, I've pretty much got every option. Treat this as a small oven. So there you go. Hope that's helped anybody out that's looking for options. If you've got quite a few people with you, the Russell hob's good to go is good, but you can use it for smaller portions as well, and it's really good for cooking rice and stuff like that. This is a slightly different device. This, as I say, needs to be thought of as a small oven. It's not a slow cooker. You could stick a load of food in that in the morning if you were going out hiking or paddleboarding or whatever for the day, and you want to come home to a nice decent meal without having to prepare food when you got back, then the Russell hobs is ideal for that. This is looking at cooking something up to an hour. So there you go. There's a couple of options for you.